Welcome to CruiserCast, where we interview some of the most influential people in tourism from around the world. My name is Graham Watson, and I'm the founder of Cruiser Global. The word cruiser means a new dawn, and in 2023, we want to find out just how our guests are working towards that new dawn. Join us and subscribe to future episodes as we hope to inspire you with stories of strength and resilience in the tourism industry. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of CruiserCast. Today is with a good friend and colleague, Andrew Camp. How are you today, Andrew?
Graham, nice surprise. I didn't expect this call.
So if you didn't remember, we were recording a podcast. This isn't me with my what I used to have, Neptune's Tavern. Remember those days in the pandemic where we used to get a group of us together around the bar, and that's how we got through. So
this will be all above board, I can assure you.
Yes, no, it will be, and the bits that aren't will be edited out and never seen again. Yeah. So
thanks for asking, and thanks for the invite. It's I'm humbled and pleasure to be part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. It's obviously you've gone from strength to strength in your career, and this is all about just getting people who are making an impact in tourism. Just to share knowledge with the global audience that is listening. We've got many countries, people from many countries listening in. So just a bit of a background. You are the group manager of international sales and marketing at Sun International. And we worked previously together down in good old Derbs. So that's how we met. In fact, I've just remembered you helped me put me in touch with Craig Drysdale when I was moving back from America. So also instrumental in helping me move back to Durban in 2013. Now that was 10 years ago.
That's right.
So
that's right. You were in LA at the time.
Yes,
and
yes,
you got in contact, and I hope it was a good thing.
It was. No, it definitely was. And then it was good to get back to, there's nothing greater than being in your hometown. Good old Durban. You can't really go wrong. So Andrew, for those who don't know you, would you mind just running through your history of your career? I know you and I both started in London in our early 20s. There's possibly a very good chance that we ran into each other in the debauch days of London life in the early 20s. But you started off in recruitment and then got into travel a bit later on. So just run through how you got to where you are.
Sure. So essentially, I studied through the Institute of Marketing and Management. I studied marketing and business management. After school, and then went straight into sales and marketing roles. Business development right up from the front. So right up from the start with a sports retailer group in Durban. And after moving from a casual position, working weekends while I was studying, moved into a permanent role and moved from a sales specialist to a assistant manager. And at this time, I was probably 22 years old. And it was the same year as Nelson Mandela becoming our president of the new democracy. So a really special time in our country. And I remember very clearly being at the beach one weekend. It was actually Good Friday. It was the Easter weekend, and it was Good Friday. So the retailer that I was working for had closed. Obviously, it was in a mall, and the mall was closed. And I came out of the water, and I had a message on my phone, my first cell phone that I'd ever owned, to say that, and it was from the center management, to say that they had that Nelson Mandela was outside of our store and wanting to purchase a rugby ball and and a soccer ball for his grandkids.
And
And I
you
thought it
must have
was a
thought it
typical,
was a wind up, yeah.
no, absolute wind up. I thought this can't be true. At the same time, I was getting a call from my manager at the time to say he had received the same, and we better get to the Pavilion shopping center immediately, and which I did. I was still in my wet board shorts, pulled on a shirt, and raced off to the Pavilion shopping center. And sure enough, as I walked in, there was a crowd of people around the retail store, and there he was. I couldn't believe my eyes. There was Nelson Mandela sitting outside the store. He was already old in those days. He was in his mid 70s and or early 70s, but he was pretty frail. His eyesight was bad, and he was pretty frail. He was using a walking stick. But the security came up to me and asked me who I was, approaching quite quickly. And when I mentioned who I was, they said, "Great, he's been waiting for 20 minutes. Can we please open up the store?" And we had protocols in place that we had to have two people there. And anyway, I told the security guy this story about I had to wait for the manager, and he said, "Look, this is the president." And I was like, "Right, okay, well, no more waiting then." And so, but as I opened up the door, my manager arrived. We quickly ran back, turned the lights on, turned the security alarm off, and then had to boot up the systems because, as you know, back in the 90s, I mean, things weren't quick. So as I walked back out into the store from the back, there was Nelson and a couple of other security guards in the store, and I got the opportunity to shake his hand and meet this amazing man and serve him. I just remember his absolute humility and grace, and just he made, you've probably heard people say this, but he really had the ability to make you feel like you were the only person in the room, and really sincere, and just such a jokester. I mean, he was cracking jokes the whole time. And when I asked him, how I could help him, and he said he wanted to buy a rugby ball and a football for his grandkids, I started going into, well, what surface are they playing on, and the typical sort of sales techniques, asking questions and trying to understand the what was needed. Anyway, it was about 5 minutes that I spent with him, but it felt like hours, and it was one of the most incredible things that's ever happened to me. So that was my foray, my first job in sales, and then moved into marketing roles, and eventually, my mid-20s, headed off to wonderful London, and initially it was supposed to be 2 years on a working visa, and more doors opened while I was there, and eventually found myself, I was working for GlaxoSmithKline in the pharmaceutical industry in their marketing team, and then after a 1-year contract there, I was at a recruitment firm and looking to find another job. And while I was there, they asked me if I'd be interested in working in recruitment, and ended up on that same day joining a recruitment day. And it was pretty incredible. I was then offered a job at the end of it, and I ended up working in financial recruitment for about 4 years, and eventually moved back to Durban. Was working for a small recruitment firm in Durban, and one of their clients was Thomson's Africa. And so essentially, I recruited myself into the industry. That's sorry, very long story, but ultimately, I was there at Thomson's Africa one day taking a job spec from HR for a finance position, and they said, "Do you know anybody who can help us with filling a sales manager role for international sales?" And the more they told me, I said, "Absolutely, one of my colleagues can handle that." But the more they told me about it, the more I thought, well, this is right up my street. And having been in London for 7 years and traveled a lot, all over Europe, to North Africa, to the States, Eastern Europe as well, I was very keen on this position. So put my CV forward, handed over the job spec to one of my colleagues, so there was no conflict of interest. And then the next thing I was being interviewed, and ended up at Thomson's Africa looking after the inbound sales for the Far East, India, and Middle East, and that was my entry into the industry. I successfully recruited myself into.
Well, that goes, yeah. I mean, if all else fails, you know that you're a bloody good recruiter. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, and then after 7 years with Thompson's Africa, um, moved markets a couple of times. There was an opportunity to look after the North American market, which was a bigger region, and I looked after that for 4 years, and then through the industry had met my now fiance, and she was based in Joburg. She is based in Joburg, and I was in Durban. We had a long distance relationship for 2 years, and eventually I moved up to the bright lights of Johannesburg to further my career with Sun International. So extremely grateful for that opportunity, and I've learned a hell of a lot over the 5 years. In fact,
Mm.
it'll be 5 years in 2 weeks' time. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's been an interesting journey.
Yeah, it's amazing how yeah, people's careers just go from one to the next. It's so I suppose, I mean, one of the questions I asked, like, what didn't you expect? And I suppose working in the travel industry, you I mean, that probably never crossed your mind really when you were younger.
Graham, it never entered my mind, and I don't know why. Because now what I know, what I know about it now,
Yeah.
it would absolutely have featured in one of my top industries. I think when kids leave school, they very few absolutely are convinced about what they want to do. So you get your qualifications, you move out into the big wide world. You've got all this, everyone's telling you that you have to get going, and I think what would have been ideal for me is to travel first
Mm.
after finishing my studies, maybe taking a gap year out and traveled and got it out of the system. But it worked out well for me the way it happened anyway. Living in London and being central to the globe, and having the strength of the pound was amazing, and being able to travel um, into other countries and onto other continents was very special. And I think that's where the bug bit. And I was, after that, it was a no-brainer for me to work within the tourism industry. I just didn't know how to be part of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, for anybody looking to be part of the tourism industry, um, I would say absolutely, don't even think about it twice. Just put your head down, learn as much as you can, find out, speak to people in the industry. If you're already in the industry, then communicate with as many colleagues as you can. Speak to external stakeholders to educate yourself. Network every day. It's just it's such a wonderful industry to be part of. To have friends around the world that
Mm.
start off as industry colleagues and end up as friends. I mean,
Yeah.
it's phenomenal.
Yes, that's true, and we're all, I mean, relatively young still. I mean, yeah, we
Relatively, yes.
relatively young. We've still got a few years left of our careers, and the nice thing is that we're kind of all moving up together. I mean, everybody that we knew as clients are also sort of moving up the ranks in their businesses, and it's just very very interesting. And as you say, they've become personal friends. I mean, it's you
For
know
sure.
it's and as you say, you get to meet people from all over the world, and it's not just about, I mean, everybody, I've spoken about this with other guests, and it's the everybody thinks, as we know, that the glamorous life of a salesperson, but when you do have family and everybody back home, to be 3, sometimes 4 weeks, even longer sometimes, apart from them, is also, it's not easy. So um,
For sure.
yeah, and I'm sure you, yeah, have found that too. It's so, yeah. Look, it's all give and take, but it's one of those passion industries where I think that, yeah, it's. I mean, the fact that after the last 3 years, we're all still here, basically by choice, because I'm sure there were many other industries that were not as badly affected in the last 3 years that we could have moved on to. But it's a magnet, and most people I've spoken to have said the same.
Absolutely, Graham. I mean, we've got a close extended family who run logistics companies, and their businesses have boomed over the last 3 years because
Mm,
the nature of purchases over the last while, people weren't able to go to shopping centers, and so everything was done online. So the logistics companies have done extremely well.
mm,
There's other industries that have benefited from COVID as well, but you're right. For those of us who who have remained in the industry, it is tough. We know that there's going to be further complications. That's one thing we can be certain about in this industry is uncertainty.
yeah.
There are. I mean, I think I heard it on one of your other podcasts. Since we had the World Cup in 2010, and it was this crest of a wave, and then 2015 there were issues, the Ebola issues, and we've had water crises, we've had unabridged birth certificate issues, visa
Mm,
concerns, and it's just we've had a lot of challenges, but we've overcome them, and I think the industry's had to become quite resilient over the last few years,
yeah.
and so for those who are still around, and there's many of us, it's just we stand strong.
Yeah.
So I think we know there are going to be challenges going forward, and I think what the last 3 years has taught us is to be resilient and agile. Those are the two most important things.
Yeah, and we create we create our own ecosystem in a way, because we help each other out, as you say. We stand strong together, and it's the networking and the ears to the ground all over the world. It's always good to know that your business has ambassadors everywhere, because people love your products, and your hotels are lovely, and it's just a matter of, yeah, as you say, the networking, and that's what keeps everything going. um
Yeah,
so
you said something quite key there. I just wanted to comment on something there. You
yeah.
mentioned it can be taxing when you're on a 3 week journey or even more. I know there's quite a few people that will travel for 4, 5, even 6 weeks, and that's pretty tough. Being away from home for that length of time. I'm pretty sure everybody listening to this podcast who is from Africa or South Africa, but from Africa at large, if you've probably been in a scenario where you're standing in front of an audience of agents, and you're about to present your product, and you perhaps start off with a video that captures what South Africa is all about, and you've had an enormous lump in your throat. Maybe it's a visual of your hometown, or perhaps
Mm,
a song by Johnny Clegg, whatever it may be. I've been there. And you're standing in a faraway country on a way different timeline, and you've got a huge lump in your throat, and that's pride. We're a very proud nation. We love what we do.
mm,
So yeah, it's a very special industry to be a part of.
yeah. So just I mean, I know you're still quite fit. You often put me to shame with your exercise regime. How many comrades have you run now?
It's a while back now, but I've run
Gee,
three
yeah.
comrades marathons, and in fact, I've been in the industry for 12 years now, and I ran my last comrades in 2012. So I haven't run comrades since, but I have done a few marathons and half marathons since, and still try to keep fit. But I believe you've got to deal with the pressures that we have to deal with. I believe that healthy body, healthy mind scenario,
Absolutely, yeah.
um, or if you're into meditation or reading books to relax, or whatever it may be, whatever is your thing. But you definitely need to pair tourism with some sort of exercise or relaxing
Yeah,
um, mantra or activity to handle the pressures. It's a very, very pressured environment.
yeah. And there's way too much free quiche going around. So you 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 have to
Yeah,
exercise. Yeah. So I
for
mean,
sure.
I
Yeah,
always remember looking at you kind of running around Vancouver or something, and I just think, my God, I wish I had that motivation to combine sightseeing with exercise. Yeah. So anyway, maybe in the
it's
future.
also it's also a good way to, when you're flying across 9 time zones, to try and get your body back into sync by doing some sort of exercise, whether it's in
Mm.
the hotel room, or the hotel fitness center, or
Yeah. Yeah.
outside. I mean, fresh is the best. And even a good half an hour walk is equally beneficial to
Yeah.
just setting your body clock right.
I do remember being in a hotel gym at 2 o'clock in the morning once, so that made me quite proud. I think it was in Stockholm or something like that. Yeah, I do
Nice.
remember not being able to sleep, and then yeah, 2 o'clock in the morning on the bikes, thinking I'm a nutcase. But yeah,
Brilliant.
it's
Brilliant. Yeah.
yeah, exercise when you're traveling is quite important, especially yeah with the time zones. And quite often I used to, I'm sure you did too, you would fly across the world, and I would go straight from the airport into a meeting after like 24 hours, because you're trying to cram in just as much as you can.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
about 10 years ago. No, yeah, about 10 years ago, I was flying back from Vancouver to Durban, obviously via London, and was in Durban for about 3 days before flying off on 4 flights to Fiji for my friend's wedding. So I had crossed the globe,
Yeah.
pretty much, in the space of a few days. It was, yeah. By the time I got to Fiji after those 4 flights, I was nowhere.
I do
But it
remember
was
that.
it was a wedding, so it wasn't too
Yeah.
much of a hassle. To no
And
work
then
required.
and then how long afterwards did you realize that you could have got from Vancouver to Fiji in 11 hours?
Yeah, that was the other way would have been better for sure.
Yeah.
I had to I had
I
to be
think there's
back.
even a direct flight now.
I think
Yeah.
there probably is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to be back. I had to be back in Durban for something, and also yeah, I'd been away for 3 weeks, and it was definitely needed. I needed
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
few days, just a new change of clothing, and other things for the wedding. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
I was the best. It
Fiji's.
was a Yeah, I was the
Fi-
best man, so I needed to, get the right stuff
yeah.
for the
No,
wedding.
Fiji's lovely. I've been there twice, oddly enough. One of those places that you think you're never ever going to go to like once, but yeah, but I'll definitely go back.
That's
It's a great, lovely people, so friendly. Yeah.
what
Um.
amazed me when I got there, and eventually I'd arrived at 2 in the morning, and when I arrived in Fiji, sorry, that day, when the sun rose, I looked out the window and I thought, I've taken 4 flights to get here from Durban, and it looks exactly like Mozambique. There's the white sand, tick. There's
Yeah.
the turquoise water, tick. There's the palm trees, tick. And then I turned around and I saw the locals, and big burly men dressed in reed skirts, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
there's the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah. There's the difference.
So I was no, it was amazing, really incredible destination.
Yeah. So you also quite a, I mean, a lot of people on that I've spoken to on the podcast have mentioned that they're kind of the most productive time of day is like everybody wakes up at 5. So I'm trying to now start waking up at like 5, 5:30. And this morning, yeah, it was 5:15. The alarm went off, and because I
Nice.
just it is true, because you get so much done, and then by the time you've got a lot of work done, you've got a lot of things ticked off, and then you look at the clock and it's sort of 8:30 in the morning, but you've accomplished so much. So there is
Yeah.
there is a definite benefit to waking up early. I mean, being in Joburg, it's obviously quite, traffic you have to take into account. What is your general kind of work day? I mean, how do you kind of structure, how do you balance everything out in terms of productivity and, you know,
Right.
getting,
Yeah, it is. It works for me. I'm an early bird, so I'm up really early. We've got 3 dogs, and the dogs get me up around 4:30, 4:45, and they get fed shortly after that, and then that's pretty much the start of my day. Make a coffee. I know it's a bad habit, but before I need to get onto the road into Santon, or get ready and then onto on the road. I do check emails, prioritize my day, have a look at what meetings I've got ahead. Not that I have to do anything at that particular moment at 5:15, but it's just to get my mind around it. So once I'm in the office, then there's usually it's usually around 7 o'clock in the morning, depending on the traffic. Sometimes that can be a bit of a delay, but by that stage, I've already spent some time in the car thinking about what I need to do. So that is, that is some quiet time, or use that time to make calls to coastal teams of mine. So it's by the time I'm at work, then I've already isolated emails or responded to some emails that needed urgent attention. And I know what's coming up. I can prep for my meetings first thing. I try not to, and I know you feel the same way about this. We trying to reduce the number of meetings that we have, or the amount of time that we do meetings in. So, for instance, if there's you can imagine with Sun International being a large corporate, we've got a lot of teams and a huge structure. So there can be a lot of emails flying around and a lot of meetings being set up. I'm always challenging that. I'm always asking if it's necessary to meet, or if an hour is allocated, can we finish in half an hour rather than dragging it on. I have better things to do than sit in meetings. So yeah, I find the tools for me that work are my digital calendar, of course, and a physical written to-do list. Which I change daily. And if things are, and we all know very well in this industry that you never get home and say, "Oh, I finished everything I needed to today." That doesn't happen in this industry.
No, never.
It's things carry over. We move things from day to day, and big tasks, large strategic tasks need to be ongoing. So I find that those two, the combination of a written to-do list and a digital calendar help me plan my day and my week. So yeah, that's what works for me.
Yeah,
I'm early. We're early to bed, so it's not difficult. I've had a full night's sleep by the time I'm up at 5, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah. No, I mean absolutely. It's the only time that's hard to do, I suppose, is during the Indabas and the We Are Africas and the WTMs, and getting an early night and waking up at 5. That's it's what we'd all love to do, but many a deal gets done at 1 o'clock in the morning. I think we know that as well. Around the hotel bar.
Absolutely. I think that's what we've missed over the last few years.
Yes,
like obviously coming back, but the connection, the face-to-face connection is crucial. You can't. I mean, yes, you can connect with people virtually, but it isn't what we as humans are meant to do. It's we are supposed to hug and shake hands and look each other in the actual eyes, not on a screen.
Yeah. So what? I mean, the lasting difference. I mean, there are a few in the tourism industry that's changed in the last 3 years. I mean, from a product point of view, my kind of thinking would be that cancellation policies and refunds and all that, those policies would have changed. I would imagine. Am I right or not so much?
Yeah, I think there's a definite need for more flexibility around the terms, which is completely understandable. I mean, what's happening now in Turkey is really hectic, and we've of course it's force majeure. We had quite a few tour series groups that are due to arrive in the next 3 months, and we don't expect them to, and we are not charging. Of course, so there's got to be a lot of understanding, agility, and flexibility around these conversations. It's not a blanket statement that we put out there. We deal with these on a case by case basis. Over the last 2 years, we've refunded many millions rands worth of deposits. We've waived cancellations, but there has to be a time where the product is also protected.
Yeah, of course.
Without, I mean, if it wasn't for the gambling industry, Sun International was in a tough space with 6 months of hotels, 6 months of hotel closures during the worst time, and no international business and very little domestic business. It really was the casino operations that kept us afloat. And while that's not something that we push to the international markets in terms of our casinos, we have a separate division that does that. We predominantly focused on leisure business and obviously mass corporate business as well. But we have to be grateful for that side of the corporate that allowed for the sustainability of the business.
Yeah.
So yeah, flexibility on terms. And I think what we've seen from a mass perspective is the hybrid system of corporate business, whether it's local or international, where in the past we might have had 500 guests flying into the Sun City Resort or to Table Bay. We might see half of that now, and the rest online. So there's a hybrid system to conferencing.
Yeah,
and I think that will remain. I don't see that changing.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, because there are still people now, a lot of companies now that want to just claw back a bit of lost revenue, and paying 100,000 rand or $10,000 or something to send somebody to a conference.
Yes.
Yeah, around the world, and when they can do it from their office, and still get the same knowledge and value. So
yes,
yeah, there is a definite. I mean, coming up, I've got an online conference next week. I'm doing Our Africa, and then in London there's a physical workshop, Celebrate Africa. So yeah, I mean, I mean, there's definitely a hybrid need for both. So yeah, I mean, that's what I think will change. Definitely the online meetings, and then also the lenient policies. But again, everybody, it's a give and take. I mean, I was very much a part of speaking on behalf of the tour operators and the DMCs when COVID struck. And when some businesses, certainly not Sun International at all, some businesses were enforcing these cancellation policies. But my opinion, or what I said, was that it's not the guest canceling, because your hotel is closed. So you are in fact the ones
correct.
canceling. So so that was, and no one, well, very few people saw it that way. It's like, no, the booking has been cancelled. It's like, but if you break it down, the guest didn't cancel the booking. Your hotel is closed. So even if I bring the guest to your front door, you can't fulfill the booking. So I'm glad that everybody kind of saw logic in the end, and now there's long-term things in place and contracts to protect everybody. And I'm sure that
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, ultimately, the guest should have travel insurance in place to cover for everything. So, and I think there's been COVID insurance that has come out and about, and I think travelers need to understand that they need to protect themselves against anything.
Yes.
And they do expect a lot of flexibility, as does the distribution channel, and that's right. But I don't think it should solely land on the product.
No.
I'm from a as you mentioned earlier, we work together at Thompson's Africa, and I wear two hats in my role. I've always got the DMC hat on, and I've always got the product hat on, and trying to find a way to keep the distribution channel protected and happy with what we are doing. So I think we're doing a good job of it. We have very few issues.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great a group of companies. I remember what was it now? 2 years ago when I went, maybe even, no, 2 years ago, I went to stay at the Wild Coast and I did a video of your COVID protocols, which were great and at the forefront of what a lot of, hotels were doing. You had everything in place
Yes.
to keep your guests safe. And yeah, I mean, I published a lovely video that's on YouTube, and luckily, we don't need that anymore. But yeah, I mean, it's a lovely group of properties. I mean, I think every most South Africans would that iconic Palace of the Lost City is ingrained in most of our minds as somewhere that you need to go at least once. I think from a domestic point of view.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I've got memories as a child. My parents driving us up from Durban, with the days where you had the old stinky egg mayo samis in the car, and you got up at crack of dawn and
yeah,
left for Sun City from Durban, which was probably in those days was good,
yeah.
8 or 9 hour drive. The roads weren't as good, but
Mm,
yeah, it's the Palace and the Sun City Resort have had a major overhaul in the last 3 years. The most recent being the Palace of the Lost City's full hotel refurb, every single room totally refurbed, gutted and totally redone, and the addition of the Royal Spa and Salon, where ladies can get their pedis and manis and hair done if they want to, and also the addition
mm,
of a fitness center. So it's had the main areas have had a huge overhaul as well. There's new menus in place. The breakfast spread is as enormous and as spectacular as you've ever seen it. It's just amazing. The staff are going through a massive silver service training course, and we've got new management in there. Nico Myberg, it was announced 2 days ago. Nico Myberg is the new general manager, and he's the previous hotel manager at the Table Bay. So we've got phenomenal teams in house. The product is looking great. The resort as a whole is looking unbelievable. And I think in the past, if we look 40 years back, Sun City was positioned as the glitzy glamour gambling destination for South Africans. And it's been over the last 5 years, it's been repositioned as a family leisure resort. The casino
yeah,
function has been dumbed down. It's not as in your face. It's really not the draw card anymore. The two championship golf courses, of course, pull in a lot of overseas groups, golfing groups. The proximity to the Pilanesberg National Park is amazing. And what we've found is, and we know that national parks aren't for everybody, but the proximity to the Madikwe Game Reserve for private safaris, and the combination of those with the Palace or the Cascades works well for the high-end guests who want a more exclusive experience.
yeah. Yeah, the same as Las Vegas, I suppose. They're also going to the whole family, you know, focus as well. They're trying to get a lot of resorts, and so
For sure.
yeah, yeah. So what do you think the last 3 years? I mean, what personality traits did you realize about yourself that you didn't, that maybe you hadn't come to the fore just yet? I mean, certainly. Yeah, it's a lovely question I like to ask people, and I get so many beautiful answers. What do you? Yeah, what do you think
I
you?
mean, I'm trying not to be boring here and say, resilience and agility, because we know that was needed by everybody.
Yeah,
I would have to say, for me, having joined Sun International in 2018, and still being a relatively new employee of the business, and then going through, 2019 wasn't the easiest year either. But then 2020 hit, and we descended further into this abyss. It taught me a lot of strategic planning and analysis. I think personally we over strategized. There was panic all over. I still remember very clearly we had just been away as an international sales team to Eswatini for our annual strat, and we were at the Royal Swazi, and sadly that has also now closed its doors. It's no longer part of our group, and that was down to COVID. But we were on the way back. It was February 2020, and we were driving back to Johannesburg, and we at that point, this was only the problem was only in China, and we had spent the last 3 days strategizing as to how we could help one of our colleagues out who looked after the Chinese region. And he was going to have to pivot and help his local operators to sell domestic business. And then in no time at all, it was upon us. So there was a lot of knee-jerk reactions and meetings and strategic or needs for new plans and how are we going to do this. And so it taught me a lot about cost of sales, and analysis and strategy, but it taught us a lot as to how to handle it, how to weather the storm, what to do to protect our teams. I'd never been through a Section 189 restructuring before. I had to go through that. Nasty. I mean, a lot of thousands of people lost their jobs at Sun International. When your hotels are closed for 6 months, you don't need waiters and waitresses and bar ladies and croupiers and room attendants. It was a very sad thing to witness. So thankfully, coming out of this and with our business increasing and the pipeline looking amazing into this year and next, it's we've been able to bring those people back from furlough and from having been asked to leave. It was very, very, very tough time. So a lot of lessons learned over this last 3 years.
I mean, it's incredible to think. Well, I mean, obviously as the anniversaries are coming up now, and certainly I am remembering 3 years ago, and watching the news, and just obviously nobody had any idea about what was coming, but I also had an international sales trip planned, and it was right up until I think 3 or 4 days before we were going. The bags were packed almost, and then and then it was no, sorry, it's like the world is shutting down. And I remember some US clients, because after you left, I looked after the US, and then I remember US clients phoning me and saying we have to get our people on the ground out today, and I'm like, no, man, it'll but they said no, because such and such a country shut its borders, and I'm like, it's not, no one's gonna shut the borders, and and it's just you don't, and then all of a sudden a few hours later South Africa shuts the borders, and it was just I mean, and it's all sort of coming back to me now, to use the words of a song, but it's amazing how I'm remembering February 2020 and March 2020 when it was, and April and May, and it was, and to think that it's almost unbelievable now to think that we threw it, and with like for me it's almost, you're scared to kind of exhale, because we were so used to kind of thinking, okay, it's over, and then all of a sudden red lists and new waves and new variants and all that kind of stuff, and but I do think we threw it now. I think if there was ever another family meeting where someone told me that they were going to shut bottle stores down for a month, then I think there would be issues.
I mean, it seems like I think we all want to forget about it, and but not forget the lessons we learned. But it does seem like a dream, or a bit surreal. All of the things that we were doing and had to put up with. I mean, I ran a half marathon. I ran a half marathon around the house in the garden, which is completely nuts. I wouldn't suggest
Yeah,
that to
yeah,
anybody.
yeah.
But you go to the shops and everybody's in masks and you can't, there was like panic buying of toilet rolls. I mean, it's
Mm,
completely nuts.
yeah.
So yeah, a very strange time indeed. I really don't think we're going to have anything worse
Well,
than that
let's
happen to the industry. I think that was. I mean, for the length of time that we were out of commission, I can't see. I
two
think the
years.
world's
Yeah,
yeah. I think the world's learned a lesson that we cannot do this to our economies anymore. We've got to trade, and it was very clear that the closing of borders didn't make any difference to
yeah,
the spread transmission of COVID.
yeah,
So yeah, we take away the positives and we smile and we look back and we say we made it, and
yeah.
we've got to look at the silver lining. There's lots of silver linings around it.
No, they are. They
So
are. But we also still have to. There are still businesses that need help. Even in the UK, there's the hospitality businesses that there's a big worry about, because people have been able to carry themselves through, and now it's kind of getting to crunch time. So I think we just have to remember that, and if we do have the ability to kind of support all these small businesses that just need a bit of a helping hand just to get through. Even though the pandemic itself is to all intents and purposes over and everyone's got back to normal, there is still that financial hangover, and that the companies still have to get through. So
yeah,
yeah, I think we just need to remember that as well.
for
Just
sure. Those
one.
businesses, those yes, go for it.
No, 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 no. Carry on.
I was just going to say, for those businesses that are struggling, and or for those people that are struggling, just to remember that every day is a new opportunity. You have the decision. You can make the decision whether to stay or leave. You don't have to remain in any industry. But I
Mm.
would urge that you don't give up. That you
Yeah,
that you you know that you really dig down. And if you fall down 6 times, you stand up seven.
yeah.
If you focus on your strengths, network, speak to those, educate yourself, join tourism groups,
Mm.
because it's I know there were a lot of tourism groups that were set up over the last few years, and that was almost like counseling. I mean, you're all sharing
Yeah,
stories and dealing with things together, and it helps.
yeah,
And then you never know. You may meet someone. There may be another opportunity. You may pick up an idea, and then you're A for away, and you moving in the right trajectory again. And that's what we've got to strive for. There's always hope.
yeah, yeah. And I think for the companies that are doing well, like, don't forget that we were all in the same boat, and
Yeah.
don't forget that humility that you needed to learn,
Yes.
in those times, because nobody was doing well. Everybody was worried. It was terrible. So now that maybe there's a bit of money and bookings coming through, like, just remember that for not everybody is rising up as quickly, and so there are still people that are
Right.
still struggling, and I would just urge those companies not to forget, that everybody needs help, including them, and just remember that, and the whole I'm too busy to, or no, we can't do this, we can't do that. I think it's very much, well, just try, because we were all in this together, and some of us, some businesses are still needing that helping hand, and don't forget that. That's what I would say
No,
to.
absolutely. And I
Yeah,
mean, we're not only the people that are working in the organizations, but we have always had a huge drive, but I think we're certainly ramping up the socio-economic development initiatives around our products, especially around products like Sun City, where there's a huge disadvantaged community outside of
mm,
Sun City who probably have never been inside. There's a lot of school initiatives out that way, tree planting initiatives that go on in that area. various things that Sun City have a dedicated CSI and SED manager, and that is their sole responsibility. It's working with the communities, working with on initiatives that are going to be more green and more towards more sustainable tourism. So there's a huge focus outside of our businesses. For those that work for us at Sun City, they probably support 4 or 5 in a home. So it's very important that we keep those businesses running optimally to make sure that we are protecting them and their families for generations to come.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's what I mean. One of the questions I ask people are, what would you like to see? What do you think still needs to change? But I think from having spoken to you, you've kind of described what needs to change, but what is changing already. I think you've kind of Sun International seems to have thought of everything, unless there is something that you wanted to mention about just in general in the tourism industry, if a couple of things or maybe even one thing that you think still needs to kind of change in order for it to move forward with full steam.
I mean, just first of all, wanted to comment on what you said there. We have been around a while. We don't get it right all the time. We're not perfect, but we do, we do try to sort out any issues quickly while the guest is on the ground, so that it doesn't delay or so that those guests still feel the love. But what I think still needs to change is the perception around travel to Africa. There's still a great misunderstanding of the destination, especially all over Africa, but I'm referring to South Africa, and the perception of what South Africa is based on what people see on the news, and we our South African tourism officers and other associations here, the TBCSA and the SATSA organization, we work very closely with, and when we do our little bit to try and educate our prospective travelers through our representative offices globally. It's I think the general public still feel that South Africa is not as first world in terms of the cities as it is. That it's difficult to get around and that we don't have world-class product. And what makes me smile is when we see the guest reviews about how incredible the guests had, when they're completely blown away by the choice of wines or the cuisine served at the properties, or the activities that are offered. It's we have a very special destination. We know there's a lot of natural beauty, but I think our people make it up that the term Ubuntu is really unique to South Africa, not only in its word but in its actual what it means. There's very few places when you travel around the world where a stranger will come up to you and ask you if you need help. If you're looking lost, or generally the South Africans are those people, and I think that just enhances the experiences for our international guests. I see it when I'm walking around the Cape Town waterfront. Puts a big smile on my face. To see foreigners having fun and also enjoying the fact that the local South Africans will engage with them without hesitation, and that is pretty special. You don't get that very much anywhere else.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's hard to describe, really. It's that lovely feeling in Africa. But I mean, Sun International, a great group. You've got the Table Bay in Cape Town, the Boardwalk in PE, Sibaya and Durban, and Lost City and the Maslow and in Joburg and Pretoria. Forgive me if I've forgotten any, but that's a lovely circuit to do for any kind of tourist group. And for those listening, check out suninternational.com and also speak to your local travel advisor, and they can get in touch and make sure that you experience those products. So thanks, Andrew, for
Thank you, Graham,
for being my guest, and it's
thanks for the invite.
No problem, and hope to see you again soon. I'm sure we will. Um, that's the great thing
Absolutely.
about this business. Yeah, we get to see each other all the time.
We know our paths will cross, and
Mm.
yeah, I just wanted to mention on Friday I am off to see Kevin Hart in a show at our hotel in Pretoria, which is what's actually in Menlyn, but close to Pretoria, which is the
Yeah,
Times Square, Maslow Times Square, and Kevin Hart's going to be performing there on Friday night. So
awesome.
Ruth and I are heading off there, and looking
Oh.
forward to that. And before you ask, I didn't get a discount for accommodation.
No, I was thinking more about discount on the tickets, which was a couple $1,000 from what I hear. But
No,
yeah.
no. No, we're sitting further back. I've taken binoculars.
Oh, cool. Yeah. No, he is quite funny. He's done some stuff before, hasn't he, in South Africa? Yeah. So
I'm not actually sure, but I do like him as a comedian, and I
yeah,
enjoy his movies. So
yeah,
I think it'll be a high energy show, and that's one thing that we're really grateful to see coming back. In Menlyn, we've just had Sting there perform.
yeah.
Counting Crows are coming in.
Wow.
There's big international groups coming out. So it's nice to be securing those performances and putting South Africa back on the map.
Yeah, I mean, Sun International's always been good with that. I remember even Queen, you performed at Sun City in the 80s, and yeah, I mean, there was you've always managed to get the
Michael Jackson. I mean,
yeah.
Jean-Michel Jarre was doing
Yes.
his
Yeah.
laser and music shows when that was the biggest thing. So yeah,
I think even old Elton John performed at the Valley of the Waves, didn't he? Yeah. So
that's right. That's
you've
right.
had you've had it all. You've had it all. You got to get some stuff back down to old Derbs, man. It's Durban always misses out on these things.
That's true. I was
Yeah.
just at not so long ago. We had the Nedbank Golf Challenge on, and Black Coffee performed at the Valley of
Oh.
Waves, and
Mm.
there was a few thousand people on the beach listening to a really great musical artist. So I'm very fortunate to work for this brand, and I know there's some amazing years ahead. So
Yeah.
we just push on. And we give of our best, and we try and live up to the brand and what the guests will expect from us.
Yeah. Oh well, thanks. Thanks again, Andrew, and keep well, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Graham. Are we recording yet?
Oh damn! Yeah, I forgot to press record. No, I'm joking. All right. Yeah. Well,
Thanks,
I better stop now. We'll see you soon. Ciao, man.
Much appreciated.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning into KuzaCast, where we explore the world of tourism with leaders from all corners of the globe. Join me, Graham Watson, for future episodes as we dive into the latest trends and insights from the industry. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating, and we'll see you next time on KuzaCast.